Together we'll weave a heart someday. Infinite threads, let's take the ride. Unconditional love as our guide. Open your heart, the journey starts. Infinite threads where love's the art.
Welcome back to Infinite Threads, conversations on love, connection, and compassion. I'm your host, Bob Barnett, and I'm so glad to have you here as we continue exploring the transformative power of love in our lives. If you're just joining us, be sure to check out our earlier episodes where we talked about unconditional love and forgiveness. Today's episode is about taking empathy, a feeling we all possess, and turning it into action. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. But what happens when we move beyond understanding and step into the realm of doing? That's when empathy becomes one of the most powerful tools we have to create change in the world. Let's start with the foundation. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. I talk all the time about how important this is. This is one of the most important things in order for you to learn unconditional love. It's that moment when you see someone struggling and you feel their pain as if it's your own. It's recognizing the humanity in others and acknowledging that we're all interconnected. But here's the thing. Empathy alone, while beautiful, isn't enough. To truly create a world rooted in love, we need to turn that empathy into tangible acts of kindness and care. I know what you're thinking. Where do I even start? It's a little daunting to even think about, I know. The answer is simpler than you might expect. Empathy in action begins in the small, everyday moments. You don't need to change the entire world overnight. You just need to start with one act of love. Maybe it's as simple as listening, truly listening to someone who feels unheard. Maybe it's reaching out to a friend who's been struggling, or offering to help a neighbor in need. Empathy in action doesn't have to be grand to be meaningful. It just has to come from the heart. Here's an example that really stuck with me. I remember walking into a grocery store one day and noticing an older man struggling to reach a box of cereal on a high shelf. People were walking by, busy in their own worlds. But I stopped and offered to help. It took me all of 10 seconds to grab that box for him. But the gratitude in his smile stayed with me long after I left the store. That's the beauty of empathy in action. It doesn't just make a difference for the person you help. It transforms you too. It reinforces your connection to others and reminds you that love is always within reach. Something as little as that. I mean, really. You can exercise this very easily, guys. But what about the big challenges? The moments when empathy feels overwhelming, when you see injustice or suffering on a large scale. It's easy to feel powerless. How can one person possibly make a difference? Well, the answer lies in focusing on what you can do. You can't be worrying about all the time what you can't do. You might not be able to solve every problem, but you can take one step forward. Maybe it's donating to a cause you care about, volunteering your time, or even just raising awareness. Every small action adds up, and together, those actions create ripples that can turn into waves of change. I mean, that doesn't mean just make one donation and say, oh, I made a donation, so I've solved the world's problems. No, you have to keep acting on these things. And let's not forget, empathy in action also means standing up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes love means having difficult conversations or challenging systems that perpetuate harm. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. One of the most powerful ways to turn empathy into action is by practicing kindness with people we don't understand or that we even disagree with. Think about someone who frustrates or angers you. Maybe it's a coworker, a family member, or even a stranger online. Instead of reacting with judgment or frustration, pause and try to see the situation from their perspective. What might they be going through? What pain or fear could be driving their behavior? Aha, now that's something to think about. When we approach others with curiosity and compassion instead of judgment, we open the door to understanding and connection. It doesn't mean we have to agree with them, but it does mean we're choosing love over division. So how do we cultivate this kind of empathy and action in our daily lives? Here's a few simple practices to get started. I want you all to try these. Practice presence. Slow down and really notice the people around you. Whether it's a cashier, a coworker, or a stranger on the street, take a moment to see them as a whole person with their own story. A smile or a kind word can go a long, long way. And this will help you exercise the being able to look at things from their perspective. What might they be going through? That's always something to ask yourself. Ask questions. When someone shares something with you, ask thoughtful questions to understand their perspective. Be fully present and listen without the intention to respond. Just listen to understand. Engage in small acts of kindness. Hold the door for someone. Pay for the coffee of the person behind you. Or leave a note of encouragement for a friend. These small gestures may seem insignificant, but they have a way of brightening someone's day in ways you might never realize. And you don't ever need to realize. Just know that it could. Speak up. If you see someone being treated unfairly, say something. Use your voice to advocate for kindness and fairness, even when it feels uncomfortable. Love is courageous. As we close today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. Empathy is love in its rawest form. When you feel the pain, joy, or struggle of another person, you're experiencing what it means to be truly connected. But it's when you act on that feeling, when you take even the smallest step to ease their burden or brighten their day, that love becomes a force for change. Yes, guys, think about it. Thank you. Thank you for joining me for this third episode of Infinite Threads, conversations on love, connection, and compassion. I hope it inspires you to look for small ways to turn your empathy into action. Together, we can create a world where love, connection, and compassion are at the center of everything we do. If you've been enjoying this podcast, please subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts and stories about how you brought love into action in your own life. Reach out to me on social media, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, remember, love is infinite, and it starts with you.